My name is Frank, and I'm 24 years old. About 3 years ago, me and my best friend Carson went to a heavy metal festival. The festival would last from Friday till Sunday. I think it was on a Saturday when the band Hatebreed were about to start, so I quickly went over to a nearby bar to grab a few beers. Once grabbing them, I turned around and bumped into a man that was close behind me, and I spilled beer all over him. I quickly apologized, and I asked if he was all right, but he didn't say anything. He just stared at me. He stared through me, I say. To describe him, he had long black hair, a dirty, scruffy, old leather coat, and black jeans with a patchy beard. He just walked away after that. I understand that he was upset, but he really looked at me like he wanted to kill me. I got another few beers and began to forget about him, and I managed to enjoy the rest of the day. Me and Carson had been drinking all day and were pretty wasted. It was like 2 a.m, and I felt like I was going to pass out, and that's what I did. As soon as I got back to my tent, I crashed and quickly fell asleep. I have no idea how much time had passed, but I heard our tent being unzipped, and Carson was ready to crash as well. We were talking to some other people at the festival, which we befriended. That's why Carson came back to our tent later than me. I was nearly about to fall back asleep when Carson laid down very close to me, a little too close. I laughed and I said, "Carson, man, come on, give me some space." He never answered me. It was at this point I was getting wind of a foul odor. It was dirt and body odor, that's what it smelled like. I turned around and I said, "Carson." I flipped the lamp on and saw the same guy who I bumped into earlier that day. As soon as the light came on, he wrapped his hands around my throat and started to choke me. I was too intoxicated to fight back and to get him off of me, and honestly, I thought I was about to die. By some miracle, someone heard me struggling even through the noise of the drunken fans, and someone opened our tent and pulled the guy off of me. I was still laid down, trying to breathe, but once I came to, I asked what happened to that guy, and I was told that he pushed past a few people, and then he ran into the nearby forest. As much alcohol as I consumed, this sobered me up instantly. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night, and I didn't drink alcohol the following day. It was the last day of the festival, but I wasn't in the mood to stay, so me and Carson packed up and headed home. I still go to festivals, but I don't drink anymore, and I'm much more cautious of what and who's around me. I'm 19 years old, but this story took place 2 years ago. Me and about 3 of my friends, we went to a concert to see the rapper Abstract. Before the main artist came out, there were a few supporting artists. Mainly, it was local up-and-coming rappers trying to get their name out there. The show was going great. We were drinking a few beers, enjoying the music, and just having a good time. That would be short-lived, unfortunately, because at some point, a group of guys were in the crowd causing trouble. They were being rude and aggressive to all the people that were around them, being jerks to girls and basically just looking for a fight. And unfortunately, that fight would be found at my expense. One of the men out of the group came up to my friends and I and started talking smack. I won't go into details about what was said. It was mainly just drunken nonsense. During the confrontation, one of the guys pushed me into the floor. Before I could get up and do anything, a security guard grabbed him and started roughly escorting him out. About 30 seconds after that, another security guard then grabbed me and started doing the same. Once we got outside, I tried to tell him that I didn't do anything wrong, but he didn't say anything. In fact, he didn't even look like a security guard. He had no ID tag or a uniform. He was just wearing black jeans and a black hoodie. He told me to shut my mouth or he would call the police, just before turning me around and tying my hands up with a cable tie. He then pushed me into the back of his car, and at this point, it was pretty clear, if not before, he definitely was not a security guard. He quickly got into his car and drove off. I kept telling the man to let me out of his car, but he never said anything. He looked nervous, to be honest. He just never responded to me. We didn't drive far, only a few streets away from the venue, and then pulled into a dark alleyway. I saw there was a van already parked in the alley, and once we arrived, there were two very large men who stepped out of the van. The guy who had taken me got out and started to talk to the men, all while he was pointing at me. At that moment, the feeling that I was in massive danger hit me very hard. I kept struggling to get out of the cable, but I couldn't. I wasn't alone in the car for long before the two men then came over and grabbed me and threw me in the back of their van. I was honestly too scared to try anything, thinking I would get killed or something. I just laid in that van thinking the very worst. I wasn't sure how long we were driving, but at some point the van pulled over. At first I thought we had arrived to wherever they were taking me. After listening out, I actually could hear a cop talking to the driver asking for his license and registration, and also why he was speeding. At that point, I screamed as loud as I possibly could. The cop realized someone was being kidnapped and quickly sustained the two men, and I was let free. The man that had taken me was also later found and arrested. I had no idea what the men had planned on doing with me. I just thank God that cop pulled them over that night. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be here today. I'm 20 years old, and this story takes place in the UK when I was 14. Me and a few of my friends were going to a metal concert on the weekend. It was to see the band, Asking Alexandria, and a few other supporting bands. This was my first concert, and I was very excited. My friends and I, we stood near the back of the crowd, next to where the bar was. And they wanted to go into a mosh pit, and they asked me to join them, but I declined as I was too scared. They went ahead and went into the crowd, while I watched them from the back, which I had no problems with. As the show went on, there was a man who was also near the bar where we stood. And I noticed that he had gradually made his way closer and closer until he was right behind me. The whole time making sure he made eye contact with me each time I scanned my surroundings. To describe him, he had long brown greasy hair, which was in a ponytail, a clean shaven face, quite fat, and was wearing a Cannibal Corpse t-shirt. He had brown cargo shorts on and an old scuffed up, looks like Nikes. At one point, I started to feel something around my waist. I looked down and I saw it was an arm. I turned around scared and I saw it was the man, the same man who had been watching me. I looked at him frightened and confused, and he let me go. This time, not even looking at me, but he had a big creepy grin on his face. I walked off and saw my two friends leaving the crowd. They were heading toward the bar. I walked over to tell them about the weird guy putting his arm around me. Once I told them, I turned around to point the man out, but couldn't see him anywhere. My friend said just forget about it and enjoy the show. I tried to do that and actually began to put the man in the back of my mind, and I was enjoying the music with my friends. I pulled out my phone and I saw it was 9 p.m. and I promised my mom I would text her right away at that time. However, I couldn't get a signal inside, so I went outside to quickly send a message. I stood out in the cold trying to quickly text my mother that everything was fine, when suddenly my phone was slapped out of my hand and the hand covered my mouth. Someone was digging their thumb into the back of my neck, pushing and shoving me towards the nearby van. I did my best to scream and fight back, but he overpowered me. Thankfully, there were a few people near the venue entrance who noticed what was happening. They started screaming for the person to let me go. It was two guys and a girl who ran over and attacked the guy attempting to kidnap me. I was released from the guy's grip and ran up to the girl who came over to help. Once I came to, I saw the two guys holding down the man who was grabbing me. It was the same guy from earlier who put his arm around me and kept creeping up on me. The police were called and the man was arrested. I gave a statement of what happened and the witnesses backed it up. I was escorted home shortly after that. I was so scared about what just happened, and I just wanted to go home. My first concert was a nightmare, and I will never forget. I'm always thankful for those people who were there to save me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here to tell this story. I never heard of what happened to that man. Hopefully, he was somewhere far away out of sight, but certainly not out of mind.